Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You're watching Decoding Now, and I'm Meghna Deka. Well, how long before China is ready to deploy robot soldiers at India's borders? Is our wily neighbor slowly building an army of bots that can run, fight, survive, and fire missiles? Well, this question is on the minds of those who watch Beijing's Robot Olympics. It is called the World Humanoid Robot Games. These robots, which have been displayed, can run faster than Usain Bolt. They can kick and wrestle like MMA fighters. They can sprint, they can box, they can do long jumps, and even lift weights. But can all these physical attributes be transferred to the battlefield already? That is the important question. Look at some of the visuals which are coming in from Beijing. This is what is being dubbed the Chinese Olympics humanoid robots, which are competing in sports which were once meant exclusively for humans. They are sprinting, football, boxing, weightlifting, tennis, you name it, and the sport of these machines are being trained to play it. The visuals are raising serious questions around the world. Is this just a showcase of India's rapid advancement in robotics and artificial intelligence, or a glimpse into a future where humanoid machines could be deployed for far more than sports? These robots can run, they can fight, they can lift, they can react, and their capabilities are advancing at a remarkable pace because, remember, at the end of it all, they can survive at high altitudes, in the cold. None of the problems that that any human being would have is applicable to a robot. It simply can't feel. But what if I tell you that there was a robot in Ukraine which held an army position in Kharkiv alone for 45 days? It was armed with a machine gun. This is a battle line that even the Russians couldn't breach. They finally had to shoot down this robot with the missiles for the Russians to actually enter, and this machine stood there for 45 days, raining hellfire, raining machine gun fire at the Russians. Well, tonight we are going to be decoding the rise of the robotic army. We are going to decode, can robot sports become the battlefield skills? Can they be turned into them? Second, is China leading the humanoid battle race? And will the Indian Army face PLA robots at the LAC? Very important questions. All three of them are going to be answered in the due course of this show. In fact, these are the robots that we are showing you who have managed to outrun human capabilities. See this red robot on your screens? It was just broken the record of the world's fastest human being, Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt finished and had held the world record for 100-meter sprint, clocking in at 9.58 seconds. This in the men's 100-meter finals in the World Athletics Championship. But this humanoid that you can see on the other side of the screen has covered the same distance in shorter time than Usain Bolt. If Usain Bolt was to have a race with this robot, the robot would have won with 9.32 seconds, beating Usain Bolt's record by 0.26 seconds. We have Dr. Brahma Chelani, strategic affairs expert. Major General Sanjay Mestan is also joining us, defense expert, and a former defense attaché to Afghanistan as well. I'm going to come to you first, Dr. Brahma Chelani, because we must understand there are these voices which are now doing the rounds in the war corridors that this is a real and imminent threat. That even at our borders, it's possible we are facing a humanoid robotic PLA. Do you think that's a possibility much closer than what we believe?
Across the world, robotic assets are increasingly being deployed by militaries. The reason is the speed, scale, and low cost of robotic assets ensure that they remain central to modern military strategy. And one other thing, for example, to give you some examples of how robotic assets are being deployed, low-cost, mass-produced aerial, land, and naval drones paired with machine learning algorithms. This is happening on a significant scale. In aerial warfare, you have first-person view, kamikaze drones, and long-range unmanned aerial vehicles. They dominate combat operations. They are replacing traditional artillery for precision strikes and intelligence gathering. In ground operations, you have these armed robot dogs known as quadrupeds and tracked unmanned ground vehicles. They perform high-risk tasks like breaching trenches, bile clearing, logistics resupply, and automated perimeter patrols. And we've seen, for example, in the Ukraine war, how in the naval domain, unmanned surface vessels, which are effectively remote controlled explosive speedboats, these vessels have reshaped maritime warfare. But I think there are some limitations to robotic assets that we should not forget. You were mentioning about quadrupeds and how they are able to fire assault rifles or launch grenades. But we have to remember that the quadrupeds that have so far been developed, whether by China or whether by the US, they have a high center of gravity. So when you arm a quadruped with assault rifle, with optics, what happens is that you knock the robot off balance.
Okay.
And the second bottleneck is the weight bottleneck. These commercial and military quadrupeds in demonstrations have pretty strict payload limits. That is how much weight they can carry.
Right.
The weight they carry is quite small. So when you mount a rifle, grenade launcher, extra ammunition, armor plating, optical sensors, and all that, what happens is that you actually cut operational battle life of this quadruped down to just 20 to 45 minutes.
Okay.
And also, this quadruped is unable to self-reload. So once a single fixed magazine has been emptied, the robot becomes combat ineffective.
But one would imagine it may be a matter of time till they fix that. I agree with you for the time being, however. They cannot reload by themselves. But Major General Meston, it's very interesting that India and the US has decided to vote not in favor of a law which is going to bind all the nations when it comes to these killer robots. Is there a reason? We know that India also has a silent sentry, a robotic surveillance robot which is already being deployed in some of the forward poses. Where is India when it comes to this AI race?
Meghna, firstly, yes, where is India? Very pertinent question. So let's be very clear that China has taken already a 10-year lead, not only with India, in comparison to India, with the even United States is quite ahead, including in the AI. You have seen that. Okay. So considering all these factors, what has happened is that India has also realized, and therefore we have also now started building up the ecosystems, and it's a huge ecosystem which is required. But we have at least started in the last, I would say, 5-6 years, something has started off, and this will take time. So definitely China has a lead and edge over that aspect. Now, where does India stand? And you have correctly stated that India was also, not voting against it. No, why? Because see, India and United States and the leading powers of the world accept robotism or the introduction of robots, including UAVs, as a ground reality. And therefore, all nations today are going for that, acquiring every possible thing. And technology today is a great enabler for a fighting force. Now, how can it be used on ground? Firstly, your introductory was that will the LAC, Indians be fighting the robots, Chinese robots? See, what I would like to say is let's understand a ground reality. In the near future, China's workforce is shrinking rapidly. It's a demographic vulnerability. And as on date, if we take the Gen Z and Gen Alpha population, India clearly has 263 million more people than Chinese. So in the long run, China's workforce is diminishing, and therefore they have looked for a solution. And one of the solutions is to go for humanoid robots. which they have even displayed in this Olympics.
Yes.
So Chinese intent is very clear, but Indian intent is also very clear that we have to now be involved in this robotic warfare. And as on date, since it is our industry is also now privatized, there are some players who have come up like Dr. Brahmachalani was also talking about the logistics part. Now, we have already introduced robotic mules. They are helping us in Siachen Glacier, etc. And the biggest advantage in these robots is, yes, they have limitations, but one of the advantages, they can be deployed in any terrain and weather condition. That is a big. But let me also state, tomorrow, it is not that, Indian army will only face humanoid robots. No, that shall not happen because they will be part of a system.
Right.
Because they will be enablers. But their vulnerability is, the biggest vulnerability for a robot is that if you damage its nerve center, which is a CPU, it becomes, incapacitated. So therefore, India will today also have to think of countering this by evolving such weapon systems.
That's very important.
Target the CPU and resort to counter jamming, etc.
That's a very important point that you have raised. It's important at the end of it. Yes, a robotic army is definitely on the cards, or should I say already on the battlefields. But as Dr. Brahmachalani as well as Major General Meston have explained to us, this is the reality we must live up to, but more importantly, learn your enemy, know your enemy, and counter-strategize as well. This is a race that India is also now looking at very, very closely for our own national security interest as well. Appreciate you gentlemen joining us and explaining all of this to us for our viewers here on Decoding Now. With that, I wrap up the show. I'll see you again tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. right here on Times Now.